comedy in video games has taken a nosedive. It's gotten so bad that you're probably wondering, were video games ever funny to begin with? Yeah, they absolutely were. But after a bit of digging, I think there are 4 main reasons why modern video games aren't funny anymore. And it might not be what you're thinking. Starting with reason number 1, safe edginess. Now, if I say the term safe edginess, what comes to mind? See, there may not be a formal definition, but most of us would probably picture something like this. Safe edginess is surface level humor that tries way too hard to be dark and controversial, while simultaneously pulling its punches and never reaching anything of substance. This is like the guy that only makes racist jokes about things that are socially acceptable, as if he's risking it all by throwing this in the group chat. But let me be very clear here. This isn't about being edgy just for the sake of being edgy. This is about trying to be edgy, because writers somehow got the idea that edgy automatically equals funny. And notice how I said trying to be edgy? Because these aren't just bad jokes. They're jokes that feel abandoned at 30% completion. But you'll see that it's not just unfunny and shallow, it's actually out of touch. Popular YouTube channel SkillUp summed it up best when reviewing the dialogue in Dragon Age the Veilguard.
And it's too scared to ever be truly confronting or dark for fear that it might make the audience uncomfortable. Every interaction between the companions feels like HR is in the room.
In these fake edgy conversations, oftentimes the most edgy aspect of this humor is the excessive swearing. Because without saying words like sh or f, you wouldn't even know that you're listening to a joke. Think of it like an applause sign that lights up, letting the studio audience know to start clapping. There's nothing risque or provocative about it. I mean, come on, they don't even use any of the fun curse words either. Take this moment to leave your favorite ones in the Anyways, one of the best examples of this concept is 2022's Saints Row reboot. Now I'll be honest, I haven't even played this game, because why would I? But for the sake of this video, I did waste my time watching all the cutscenes, and good lord.
Fucking fuck. Fuck, fuck, fuckity fuck. Fuck, fuck, fuckity fuck, fucking fuck. Shit. Goddamn fucking shit. Goddamn shitballs on a stick with a side order of mother-loving shit-smothered, piss-covered ass crack. Fall in line.
Not cringy enough? No problem. There's actually 8 variations of this dialogue in the game. And don't worry, I'll bless you with a few more before the end of the video. The Saints Row franchise has always owed a part of its success to its unfiltered and absurd nature, but the 2022 reboot deviated from that and failed miserably. It tried so hard to come off as rebellious, while tiptoeing around anything actually controversial. The result? An inauthentic mess. Its over-reliance on memes and pop culture references makes the writing sound like it was crafted by a 35-year-old millennial whose life goal is to be considered cool by Gen Z.
Get the snitch. Get the snitch. Get the snitch. Wait a minute. Do you not know how to play Quidditch?
I mean, they've got jokes about healthcare and student loans, random out-of-place topics that give off a strong vibe of,
How do you do, fellow kids? What?
but it's not just the topics, it's the way they talk. For whatever reason, characters repeatedly say things like,
Almost there. Let's get psyched.
Only you can
Oh
decide
no,
how you
not this
react
crap
to
again.
adversity.
Hey,
Only
that's
you
the rule.
can choose to
Don't
react
yuck
to the
someone's
changes
yum.
that life
it genuinely feels like the writers went to Twitter to see what slang the youth are using, and then tried their best to jam it into the dialogue.
So let's talk about what the heck is skibbity toilet?
What is it?
Or skibbity.
I don't understand it.
The problem with their approach is that it immediately dates the game. Slang comes and goes, sometimes within months, sometimes even within weeks. Combine that with how long it takes to develop a game, and you get a real chance of releasing a game that already feels outdated the day it drops. But that's not the only problem with this approach. Oh wait, first.
Fall in line. Balls. Goat balls. Cow balls. Goddamn cow balls and a pizzle stick between them. Horse balls. Big, giant, sweaty horse balls. Big, giant, sweaty, dangling horse testes just swinging in the goddamn breeze, knocking back and forth like a pair of motherfucking clappers in a giant horse flesh crotch bell.
Another major problem with this style of writing is that it really narrows down your audience. Obviously, different age groups will find different things funny, but great comedy finds the overlap. that sweet spot that makes a joke land across demographics. That's what makes some of the most popular comedies timeless. Safe edginess gets treated like this wild card you can just use to get an easy laugh, but in most cases, it just comes off as super cringy. Edginess isn't something you just dip your toe in. I'm not saying that you need to be shocking people every 5 minutes, but games that commit to being edgy tend to pull it off successfully. Take South Park: The Stick of Truth, whose humor closely aligns with the TV series.
Whose difficulty?
Don't worry, this doesn't affect combat, just every other aspect of your whole life.
Wait, what the
However, because of how faithful it is to the show, I feel like it'd be unfair to include it in this video. So let's take a look at something a bit older.
Fall in line. Fall in line my ass. My big sweaty ass. Fall in line my big sweaty fucking ass. Fall in line my big sweaty goddamn motherfucking ass. Shit. Shit and piss. Shit, piss and vinegar in a goddamn cocktail shaker. Sweat, spit, snot, scum, blood, and bile all on the rocks with a twist of fucking lime. Fall in line. Huh.
Okay, don't worry, we're done now. Some of you probably weren't even born when this game was released, but Conker's Bad Fur Day was one of a kind. It was the second funniest thing to come out of 2001.
America deserved
Zoolander.
Fuck it, I'm saying it.
At first glance, it looks like a typical children's game, with character designs and graphics you'd expect from a kid-friendly platformer, but spend just a little bit of time playing it, and you'll quickly realize that it's anything but. The contrast becomes even more jarring when you remember that this game came out on the Nintendo 64, alongside other 3D platformers like Banjo-Kazooie. To separate itself from the pack, Conker's Bad Fur Day took a wildly different approach. It doubled down on the raunchy, crude humor. Just one glance at the synopsis makes it clear that this game was aimed at a more mature audience. The morning after a night of binge drinking, Conker awakens to find himself in an unfamiliar land with a terrible hangover. Having no other choice, he begins a long journey with the goal of returning home to his girlfriend, Barry. Unfortunately, I can't show you too much of the edgy moments from this game because I'm not trying to lose out on that ad revenue. Do all the jokes land? Of course not. But the game doesn't pull any punches, which is really impressive when you factor in its release on one of the most family-friendly consoles ever made. They had every reason to tone things down, but Rare fully embraced the crude humor, and they didn't just stop there. One of the things that really solidifies this game as an edgy one is its ending. Rather than wrapping up the story with another crude joke, it actually ends on a surprisingly grim and introspective note. It's reminiscent of a dark comedy, something with an underlying somber story buried beneath all the absurdity. The game could have easily gotten lost in the sauce with all the poop jokes or dick jokes, but it remembered that writing an edgy game for a mature audience means you can explore heavier topics and themes that would resonate with that same audience. This game embraced its identity, and that authenticity helps cement Conker's Bad Fur Day as a cult classic. It's funny, some people don't think a sequel like this could be made today, and not just because of quote-unquote cancel culture. The bigger problem is that writing in video games has gotten worse.
So to answer your question, how do you have a $150 million budget and not hire a talented writer? The point is they think they are hiring talented writers. The people involved with making these games are out of touch and don't understand what they're doing or what they're screwing up, which almost makes it worse.
But to me, safe edginess is just one piece of that puzzle. The smallest piece, actually. The second and much bigger reason, the obsession with quippy one-liners. A lot of people blame the overuse of quippy one-liners on the Marvel movies, and honestly, they're not wrong. What was once used sparingly and reserved for a few standout characters has now become the default when it comes to injecting comedy into dialogue. But let's be fair here, there are legitimate benefits to this kind of humor. Not only is it a quick way to break tension during serious moments, but it can also tell the audience a lot more about the character using it. These snappy remarks signal a level of intelligence and wittiness, making the protagonist seem more charismatic to the audience. These quips are self-aware, sarcastic, and when done correctly, should fit seamlessly into the conversation. Nobody does this better than Tony Stark in the MCU.
Big man in a suit of armor. Take that off, what are you?
Genius, billionaire, playboy, philanthropist.
This style of comedy is a big reason why certain characters become fan favorites. But as this approach became more popular, it seemed like writers have forgotten why these lines worked in the first place. Rather than taking the time to craft a joke or incorporate comedic elements into the story, there's been an over-reliance on these rapid-fire jabs. So What happens when the lead character constantly dishes out these zingers way more than they need to? Well, you end up with Ryan Reynolds, playing Ryan Reynolds, in whatever Ryan Reynolds movie Ryan Reynolds is in. This approach also flattens characters, leaving them with one-dimensional personalities, whose entire appeal revolves around snark. But what about when those quips aren't even funny or clever? When they just feel like empty words used to fill the silence? Well, then you get Forspoken.
Thought we wouldn't find you? Hey, Lisa!
Lisa? Really? I thought she was Lisa.
That's Chrissy!
Huh. Well, in my defense, you don't really look like a Lisa.
Forspoken was one of those games that became popular for all the wrong reasons. From its insufferable writing to the unbearable protagonist Frey, the game was plagued with a myriad of issues that landed it in the bargain bin. And it honestly can't be overstated just how bad the writing is. The writers clearly wanted Frey to come across as a charismatic, witty lead, but when every line feels as forced as it does here, it quickly becomes tiresome.
Did I just do that?
Well, definitely with my assistance.
I did not just do that.
We did.
I just moved shit with my mind.
Perhaps our connection has somehow awoken some abilities.
I just moved shit with my mind.
I just keep hearing I.
I just moved shit with my freaking mind!
Oh, brother!
The game ends up filling the silence with these Marvel-style snarky remarks that do more harm than good. Rather than letting the story breathe and allowing characters to feel the events as they take place, these one-liners get tossed out, completely undercutting any emotional weight the scene might have had. The clip I showed earlier, where Frey first discovers her powers, did not have to be that annoying. I mean, think about any good superhero or fantasy story. There's always a scene where the character goes through a similar experience, but those scenes convey more than just humor, they convey emotion. They show vulnerability and awe. And because of that, they just hit so much harder. In Forspoken, Frey reacts to almost everything with sarcasm or annoyance. It makes it seem like she doesn't really care about the world around her, instead of genuinely observing it or just soaking it all in. Now, I know this game isn't particularly known for being funny, but even compare this to The Last of Us, which frequently takes the time to observe and appreciate the world we play in. Like, how do you expect us to care about the world Frey's in, to become invested and immersed in the world of Athia, when it seems like she couldn't even be bothered herself? And it's also not surprising that some writers think making a street-smart or tough character automatically means that they should be a sassy, quick-witted rebel. But in the case of Frey, she just comes off as an out-of-touch, annoying brat.
There were reports and stories that came out around the time of Forspoken. The team was very shocked that people were mocking it. They were shocked that people thought it was cringy. They really thought they were onto something.
Games like Forspoken showed that having an unfunny character who constantly makes these quippy one-liners doesn't just result in a bad protagonist. It means having a world that's mocked, or villains that are never taken seriously. Worded differently, every aspect of the game suffers when the characters are being forced to deliver a Marvel-style zinger at any chance they get. There are ways to write these witty remarks without making the characters completely insufferable, and Portal 2 is an excellent example of this.
Well done. Here come the test results. You are a horrible person. That's what it says. A horrible person. We weren't even testing for that.
When done right, witty humor can really breathe life into a video game's dialogue. One of the ways that Portal 2 excels is in its ability to make characters more than the jokes that they tell. Yes, the humor is smart and intentionally crafted, but it never feels like the characters exist solely to be funny. They all serve a purpose, and that's thanks to the strong writing and thoughtful game structure. Something rather unique to Portal 2 that we don't see too frequently in modern games is how the gameplay and comedic dialogue are seamlessly interwoven. And that's not to say that the characters wouldn't still be hilarious on their own. Wheatley, for example, serves as the perfect companion, delivering clever lines and comedic relief throughout the story.
Hey buddy, I'm speaking in an accent that is beyond her range of hearing. I know I'm early, but we have to go right now. Walk casually toward my position and we'll go shut her down.
Look, Metal Ball, I can hear you.
Run, I don't need to do the voice, run!
Or how about Cave Johnson, whose ramblings help to develop the lore behind the world we're playing in.
Just a heads up, we're going to have a superconductor turned up full blast and pointed at you for the duration of this next test. I'll be honest, we're throwing science at the wall here to see what sticks. No idea what it'll do. Probably nothing. Best case scenario, you might get some superpowers. Worst case, some tumors, which we'll cut out.
His monologues tell us about his ambitions and serve as a satire of the archetype he represents. But I've always wondered, why isn't the humor in Portal 2 as annoying as other games? Well, it definitely helps having some incredibly talented voice actors to deliver these lines. But I think more than that, all the humor serves a greater purpose. In a talk at NYU, Portal 2 writer Eric Wolpaw spoke about the use of a silent protagonist and their approach to the game's comedy. And there's something he says here that I really want to emphasize. There's this thing with comedy. There's sort of two different patterns. One is, you're the straight man in a world gone mad. And the other one is you're a crazy person in a sort of straight world. Portal is definitely the world gone mad straight man. And the straight man is you. And again, because you have to write in the margins in a game, time is at a premium. So the fact that there's already this established thing where you have a silent protagonist, that saves us a lot of time. You may want to know Chel's backstory, you may want to hear her say things, but I guarantee if she had to say her straight man lines at the expense of half of the other dialogue, it would suck. I mean, this explains everything. Why this style of comedy works in Portal 2, but not so much in other games. Portal 2 focuses on quality over quantity. Key story elements aren't buried under a pile of throwaway quips. These quips that would otherwise come from the protagonist actually come from our own minds as we're experiencing the game. I mean, just ask yourself, when you think of Forspoken, do you think of quality over quantity? Probably not. But that brings up an important point. Good humor doesn't always have to be cleverly crafted with these one-liner retorts. There's other ways to get a laugh out of the audience. But like the quippy lines, nobody enjoys it when it's overdone. Ironic or self-aware humor has become one of the most overused comedy styles we've seen in recent years, even though it's been a major part of some of the most popular TV shows and movies in the past decade. I'd argue that Rick and Morty played a huge role in popularizing it. The sharp and well-crafted ironic humor was one of the reasons the show was so successful, but now, the style of humor has become exhausting. Like, I'm not even talking about unfunny. Ironic humor that doesn't land is eye-roll inducing. Even worse is when the writers just don't know when to quit. One of the characters will point out the irony in a situation, but then they'll just continue dragging it out. You know exactly what type of delivery I'm talking about. Now, it's questionable whether it even worked back then, but it definitely doesn't anymore. The reason it fails now? Laziness. Instead of removing cliches from a story or leaning into them in a meaningful way, writers use this one simple trick. Just point it out. It's like they're saying, hey, you noticed that thing? Yeah, well, we noticed that you noticed it. Isn't that funny? But here's the real problem. When ironic humor is overused, it tells the audience not to take the story seriously. It discourages emotional investment because any attempt to engage with the plot or the characters could be undercut at any moment with a self-aware joke. What could be used as a way to deconstruct a complex topic in a clever way, then becomes a character taking the momentum out of the story by constantly emphasizing the irony in the situation. It presents more and more opportunities for characters to come off as annoying too, reducing their potential to be genuinely funny. And no game highlights this better than High on Life. Now, I know this might be a controversial pick, and to be clear, I did find High on Life to be genuinely funny at times, but I think it speaks volumes about a game when there's literally an option to tone down the dialogue and jokes. And that's not even the worst part. The worst part is that plenty of people said that enabling this feature actually improved the game. I mentioned earlier that Rick and Morty relied heavily on ironic humor and long-winded rambling, so naturally, High on Life comes with Justin Roiland's signature comedy style. Like I said, I know a lot of you genuinely enjoyed the comedy in this game, and I even did to an extent. But my problem was that the jokes that didn't land weren't just unfunny, they were downright irritating, especially because the game just doesn't know when to stop. And that's a shame because there are some genuinely clever, self-aware moments in this game. If you take time to explore the world and listen to the other characters, you'll see where High on Life is at its best. But those moments get buried by all the overdone, ironic humor. In this case, less is absolutely more. The game clearly doesn't want to be taken seriously, which is fine. There's no problem with trying to keep the game lighthearted and fun. But making your characters annoying doesn't achieve that. It gets to the point where even if they're gonna tell a good joke or say something worth listening to, I'm already mentally checked out. Like, how many times can I hear Morty blab on yet again? Instead of being a clever tool for calling out tropes, it becomes background noise used to fill the silence. To be fair, there are things that you can't really blame the game for. Rick and Morty debuted back in 2013, almost 10 years before High on Life was released. So we've had about a decade of this ironic and self-aware style of humor in TV, movies, and video games. Maybe I would have felt differently if High on Life came out in like 2015. Maybe that's why a game like The Stanley Parable was able to successfully leverage off this style of comedy. When it first came out, The Stanley Parable was widely regarded as one of the funniest video games ever made. You play as Stanley, an employee in an office building who's got a seemingly meaningless job. However, due to some unexpected circumstances, Stanley ventures off to explore the office building, all while guided by a witty narrator. But from the very beginning, the game makes it clear that you're playing through a meta commentary.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Door on the left.
This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well.
And as you progress through the story, the level and tone of the ironic humor will actually shift based on how you play. Disobey the narrator and you'll trigger more self-aware commentary. Try to exercise your free will, and the narrator will make fun of you for it.
When you go talk about this with your friend, you'll say, "Oh, did you get the broom closet ending? The broom closet ending was my favorite." I hope your friends find this concerning.
And it's through this game design that the self-aware humor thrives. It encourages players to ignore the path laid out for them, to provoke the narrator into making fun of them. It's like a giant joke that everyone's in on, which is different from other titles, where it seems like the protagonist is more of a witness than a participant. But that's the benefit of using ironic and self-aware humor correctly. The joke is in the game design itself. Just by playing the game, you're participating in the joke and setting up the next punchline. And because you're in control of how many jokes are made, it's much harder for this style of humor to be overused. If you're getting tired of the jokes, the player can just play normally and avoid provoking the narrator as much. Another way this game shines is its minimalism. The Stanley Parable has no other characters, makes no attempt at world building. As I mentioned earlier, trying to get a player invested in a video game world or new characters is much harder to do when you're constantly making jokes about everything.
Right now, I want you to come in and tell me all about your day.
Gotcha! Oh, come on. Did you actually think you had a loving wife who'd want to commit their life to you?
But not all comedy needs to have some profoundly self-aware commentary. Sometimes, the joke said during a seemingly regular dialogue is more than enough to make us laugh. But there's a catch. In order to write humor like that, you need to write characters who sound like real people. Otherwise, you're left with the next major problem: inauthentic dialogue. A good story should have you so immersed that you don't factor in that you're watching actors reading lines. This is especially true when it comes to comedy. But nothing takes you out of the experience faster than inauthentic dialogue. You know, the kind that sounds like it was written by someone who hasn't had a real human interaction in years.
Not a bazooka.
Should have thought this through before assaulting justice personnel.
You know that's not what happened. You're gaslighting me.
There's plenty of reasons why dialogue can feel fake, and many of them connect directly to things we've already talked about. Maybe it's a character who never stops hitting those one-liners, or maybe it's the ironic humor that just doesn't seem to end. Maybe it's the ultra-sanitized, safe-for-work edginess. At the end of the day, it's just conversation that feels overly scripted. Conversations that only sound like they could happen online, or in the minds of people who imagine what cool people sound like. Conversations that ultimately, you couldn't possibly imagine hearing in real life. Honestly, there's so many games I could choose from here, from Gotham Knights, the Avengers game, Redfall, Dragon Age the Veilguard. Hell, I could even talk about the Saints Row reboot again.
Crap, shit, crap, goddamn fucking shit, crap.
But of all the games I've mentioned, there's a consistent factor. All of those games are squad-oriented games. And I don't mean that they're multiplayer games. I mean that they're games where your character is part of a team, and is thus interacting with people quite frequently. There's nothing wrong with this dynamic. Having a good squad of supporting characters is made for some of the most memorable video games. Even something as simple as a classic Call of Duty Zombies crew had players invested in 4 characters solely based off how they bounced off each other. But nowadays, it seems like video game characters have no clue how to talk to each other. Instead of writing dialogue that sounds natural, writers will implement several lazy tactics to try and give the dialogue more life. In reality, it does the opposite. Another cheap hack writers will use is modern slang. And look, I get it, slang can make the conversation feel more casual, but it comes with its own share of issues. As I've mentioned earlier, not only does it date your game, but it can often clash with the tone of the story. When these characters are written so inauthentically, gamers are well aware that they're listening to a scripted conversation. a conversation by someone who spends way too much time online and has probably never been funny in their life. Now, if a game can recreate that squad dynamic, one that's relatable, it sounds like a conversation you can imagine having with your friends, then it's done an excellent job at prioritizing authenticity in its dialogue. Now, if you look at modern first-person shooters, you wouldn't think this would be possible in an FPS campaign. But what happens when you don't take yourself so seriously?
You had me at interesting.
Hags, come on now. If you leave, no more T-bone steaks, man.
Yeah. No more buying AR-15 ammo at the mall. No more shooting trespassers on your porch.
No more biscuits and gravy.
No more Super Bowl Sundays. No more Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders. Shit. That's tour. Get out of the way! I gotta save me some cheerleaders.
Although often overshadowed by its more serious successor, Battlefield Bad Company 2 was a one-of-a-kind game. To this day, it's still one of my favorite FPS campaigns. The charm and humor in this game were unmatched, not just among its competitors, but even among titles that came years later. You gotta remember that this was back in the MW2 Black Ops 1 era, and while I'm not knocking those games, I personally love them, they definitely took themselves very seriously, especially with regards to the tone of their campaign. Bad Company 2 was the complete opposite. It felt just like an action comedy movie you'd get in the late 2000s. But you know what's funny? I don't even remember the plot of this game. What made the campaign so memorable wasn't the story, it was the squad.
Okay, guys, stack up.
So you reckon that the rainbow sprinkles are the way forward with the donut?
Absolutely, because then you get the different textures between soft donuts. Could you get your ass over here right now?
Did you lose something, Sarge? You drop something, Sarge?
This is supposed to be a stealth mission.
In most FPS campaigns, any attempts at humor are usually limited to cutscenes that feel disconnected from the rest of the experience. But the best part about Bad Company 2 is that the banter didn't stop when the gameplay began. It's spontaneous, it feels real. Here's a good way to explain it. I always think back to the one gameplay reveal for The Division, when they're talking to each other but it just sounds so scripted and unnatural.
Dude, check out Manhattan. We should go over there later.
Now compare that to Bad Company 2, where your NPC squad mates sound like real people having a conversation. It's almost like you and your buddies are just shooting the shit.
I gotta say, I've never eaten snake. What's it taste like?
Didn't like it.
Chicken.
Didn't have much taste when I had some.
Now, everything that you taste, and people say, oh, what does that taste like? Chicken. What does that taste like? Oh, I'm eating the ass out of a skunk. What does it taste like? Oh, that tastes like chicken. Eating some alligator. What does it taste like? Chicken. Shut the fuck up.
You're right, you're right. The only thing that tastes like chicken is rabbit.
And chicken.
Yeah, chicken tastes like chicken.
I can't tell the difference if I'm eating chicken or turkey.
No, turkey's got a different taste altogether.
Turkey's tougher.
Tougher turkeys.
Bad Company 2 showed everyone that you don't even need to have a memorable story in order to be a hit with fans. Allowing the characters to be authentic and speak to each other in a way that feels unscripted is a high-risk play, but if done well, can really resonate with people. And look, I couldn't make a video game about comedy and gaming without at least mentioning Grand Theft Auto. Because it's been like 11 years since the last GTA, a lot of people forget about how funny the franchise is. It's widely known that GTA presents itself as a satire of America, with Los Santos being an over-exaggerated version of LA. And even though you know it's exaggerated, it just seems so natural that you can't help but feel immersed in this world that you inhabit. From the dialogue of random NPCs to the radio stations, GTA's humor works because it spreads the satire evenly. Sure, it dabbles with stereotypes, but it also offers a critique through humor by taking a lot of absurd concepts to their extremes. Will GTA 6 follow this trend? Let me know in the comments below. The decline of comedy in video games didn't just happen overnight, it's actually a sign of the times. There's a reason why we've seen a shift in mainstream movies too, not to mention the fact that so many games seem to take themselves so seriously nowadays. But that's a whole separate conversation for another day. So I'm curious to know what you guys think. Do video games still have that comedic element to them? Let me know in the comments below. But before you do that, be sure to like the video and subscribe if you enjoyed it. You can also check out this video on screen now. Thanks for watching and stay winning.